Arahat Sambuddhassa. Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So, good evening for you, because for me it's still good afternoon. But for you, of course, I know it is still good evening, not yet night. So first of all, thank you very much for coming. You know, today the presentation came to be in because of Mr. Yi Shin. And first of all, thank to her for organizing it, but also the Chief Reverend, Most Venerable Saranankara, who invited me to the temple and facilitated, also the resident monks. And also I should remember Miss Chor Cindy, who purchased me a light for webinar, which is I'm using actually. So that's why you can see my face clearly. And also Venerable Indaratana in Subban Center gave me this Tripitaka. You know, this one is, he gave me a set of the Tripitaka, English translation, and that's also very valuable. And so those four groups I remember today on this occasion, but also at the end I will transfer the merit to all of you for your hard work. Yeah. So now let me share the screen with you. I think that one. So share the screen. Yeah. Now we can all I can see all of you on the right hand side, and I guess you can hear me. Yeah. Everybody can. Yeah. Wonderful. So we are going to talk about maybe 55 minutes. And maybe when it comes to 55 minutes, Mr. Yishin can inform me it's 55 minutes or 50 minutes, so I know how to finish it on time. Yeah. So the topic I was given was Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. You can see the title here, Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, which can be translated as the turning of the wheel, the Dhamma wheel. And it is the Buddha's first sermon. So I added a title called A Critical Study of the Buddha, of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the turning Buddhist wheel. So I'm going to be a little bit broad, but then if you have any clarification, if you need any clarification, please raise your hand. And my voice is not great today, but I think I will survive until the end of the presentation, so you don't have to be worried. For 50 minutes is all right, I think. Yeah. So so here, let's see. My pointer. Now it's moving. It's very strange, but PowerPoint is not, screen doesn't move properly. Yeah, I think this is okay, I think. Yeah. So today's objective basically are these. So we wanted to understand the doctrinal, you know, that means the theoretical basis, the foundation, the key ideas in the Dhammacakka Sutta, the turning of the wheel. And then as I see it, you know, what are the distinctive features, what are the key elements in the Dhammas, in this sutta, and as a foundation for what later became Buddhism, what we call Buddhism. And then I noticed that few things are missing there. So I just wanted to inform you what is missing in this text, you know, when we look at it from today to the Buddha's time, what is missing there as the Buddha's first sermon. So those are basically the three things that I'm going to cover: the content, doctrinal context, some of the distinctive features, and what somebody could argue what is missing there. Yeah. So now this is the story of the person that we call the Buddha, and it is a painting in a temple in Sri Lanka, near Colombo, called 𝗘𝗵𝗶𝗽𝗀𝗀𝗃, and it was the painter was a famous person called George Keat. He passed away, and there in this painting you can see a white elephant. White elephant is carrying a lotus. This is the symbol or the conception, basically. The Buddha planned to come to this world, and in a dream appears as an elephant coming to the mother's womb. So this is basically the conception of the Buddha as a person, as a human person. And then next one. I wonder why the slides are not moving. Are you controlling, musician? You're not controlling, no? Okay, now it moves. So here, the Buddha's birth, and now the place called Saranath here is the place where Buddha gave the first sermon. It is in northern India, and that's where we are going to focus today. And there you can get this painting. It was painted by a Japanese artist around 1930s. So the way he depicted the Buddha's scene inside the shrine room, I have a few pictures today to share with you. This is the Buddha's birth. And here in the middle, you can see this Siddhartha is born, and he is standing on lotus, and the mother on the right-hand side, and almost touching the cannonball tree or sal tree, as you can see in the Buddhist Mahavihara in Kuala Lumpur. You can see there's a nice salad tree there. And here you could see that if you look at the image on the left-hand side, you see a deity, God has brought some clothes for him. So these are quite vividly kind of depicted there, and very kind of presenting the miraculous aspect of his birth. Yeah. So we move to the next slide, and this is very important. I know in a Dhamma talks we don't go to detail on these things, but this is about the Buddha's birthplace, Lumbini in Nepal. And I wanted to draw your attention to the object in the middle, and this one in the white pillar. And this white pillar, it's called Asoka pillar. And you can see the full picture of it on the right-hand side. If you have been to India, you may have seen it. On this pillar, you can see some of the writings. They are, it's a script. They are called Brahmi, related with Sanskrit and Pali, but early form of writing during Asoka's time. And you can see the writing on the right-hand side. And why I mention this, Asoka would have lived about 100 years or 150 years after the Buddha. Asoka went looking for the Buddha's story. So Asoka basically identified various places related to the Buddha, and he put this tower there. So that's an indication that we know Buddha is a historical person. Buddha lived here, and Asoka thought this is the place that Buddha got his birth. Yeah. So and this writing refers to them also, and you can see here on the left-hand side, the mother is touching the cannonball tree, and little prince is born on the foot, and then the deity Sakka comes and offers the clothes. And on the bottom, you can see the map. It's not complete, but that's how it looked like 250 BC. Asoka's empire is called Mauryan Empire. So why I show this to you, I wanted to highlight, we are talking here about a historical person, actual person who lived in the world 8 years. Yeah. So that's the purpose of it. So now we move to the next slide. A question for you. Now we are talking about his first sermon, but who is he? Who is the Buddha? Why he called him the Buddha? Yeah. So let's move on. And one of the contemporary Buddhist scholar at Oxford, Richard Gombrich, he wrote a book called What the Buddha Taught. And in that book, Gombrich, I have to time myself too. So in that book, Gombrich writes, Buddha, the date is given, 563 to 480 BC, was one of the most brilliant and original thinkers of all time. And this is very important. It says that he was not only a religious person, awakened person, but his message has originality, something new. And also he is a thinker, he's not just a follower. Those two key elements are very important. He is a thinker, he is an original thinker, and he's a pathfinder. And that's what Buddha represents for us. So now, the title is the Buddha divine? This is something that bothers a lot of people. And one of the scholars who lived in India, called Basam wrote, divinity is cheap in India. And the implication of that statement is, for a person to be elevated to a deity or look like a god, it doesn't resonate the same way as in other cultures. Yeah. So it's kind of open-ended one. And now across Buddhist cultures, not only people, I think somebody's mic is working. Maybe you can mute your mic. Somebody's mic is on, and please mute your mic. So if you wanted to raise the question, you can raise the hand. And yeah, okay, wonderful. So across Buddhist cultures, not only people, but even mountains, trees, and natural phenomena, to some extent, have been elevated to a superior position, superior than human beings. Sometimes you may use the word divine or sacred. That's quite common. And it seems precisely that, from our perspective, Buddha has a very complex identity. And Buddha, he is neither human being nor a god. For us, he is a Buddha. Yeah. So now Buddha, we consider, or the texts consider, Buddha was born as pure. This word pure can mean many things, but on the one hand, we are thinking here about his conception, about his birth. At least in relation to his birth story, he got a little bit different birth from us. And when we consider in the story, it looks like a little bit pure. So he was different from both the human and God. That usually in this world, the humans are subjected to karma. Karma is basically a law, which means that what you do, whether you do good or bad thing, it has an impact on you. It comes after you. Yeah. Now, Buddha is not, may not be God, but there are many miraculous qualities and miracles, unusual qualities associated to the Buddha's life. And for example, his birth. The story says that goats came with a golden net, as I showed you earlier. Golden, with clothes and so on, the golden net to catch the baby. When he was born, he was received. And they declared also that boy, the baby, was unusual and it was not a regular baby. And then the stories in particular says that Buddha was, or the baby Siddhartha, was not stained and dirty as other babies, but he was pure and clean. In that sense, he is born pure. So that's how he is different from us. Yeah. So to explain it further, one of the Buddhist texts explain this situation, why we consider the Buddha as special and how it is pure. And this is the quotation. And as the other beings, when born, come forth stained with impure matter, not so the Bodhisattva. So this is the Bodhisattva refers to the baby Buddha, the person who is waiting to become a Buddha. But the Bodhisattva, like a teacher of the doctrine, the Dhamma, descending from the seat of the doctrine, like, compared to a preacher who ascend to the preaching pulpit and then descend in it. So he appears like a preacher descending from the preaching pulpit, from the seat of the doctrine, like a man descending stairs, stretched out his 2 hands and feet, and standing unsoiled and unstained by any impurity, shining like a jewel laid on Benares cloth, descended from his mother. So now when you read this one, it's very clear why he is considered born pure. And because this is a situation which is not familiar to us. If you have seen how children are born and giving birth, this situation doesn't match with it. But it's represented as an unusual case. Yeah. So now, next one. This is again George Keat at Gotama Vihara. He has a painting here, Siddhartha's birth. You can see the baby, in the hands of the god, and mother is standing there, and you can see the baby looks like unusual baby because he already has a halo around his head, but also he is in a good appearance. He has opened his eyes and he's seen us. So it's unusual baby. Yeah. Let's see. And then, the story that how the Buddha was born, can kind of can raise many doubts in us. The stories about his birth can raise many doubts, but we have to think about these stories probably try to attempt to honor him, and then one story says that when he was born, miracles occurred. The 2 streams of water came down, and probably to clean up him and the earth. So sometimes, in the Sri Lankan tradition, we call it flower rains. When auspicious things occur, the flowers come down. Yeah. But all of this, we could see that these things would have occurred to honor the Buddha, the baby Siddhartha, as well as his mother. Yeah. These are a little bit about here. What I have done is I have given you 2 perspectives on the Buddha. One, historical perspective with Asoka's pillar, inscription, and the location, actual person in India. And then other one is a mythological one, historical, one which comes with through stories, which kind of present miraculous aspects of his birth. Yeah, I hope you are clear on it. So this is another painting, and this is the Buddha's birth. I'm just going to let in 2 people who wanted to come. Okay, now they are admitted. And let's see. And now here, let's see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So here you could see that that George Keith has captured what happened at the Enlightenment. What might have happened. There are stories, and here you could see. See, did I go back? Let's see. Let me go back. Oh yeah, this is the one first. So now I didn't explain this. I want you to look at the Buddha's hand here. See the hand here? His right palm touching the ground. And that's very important. And we tell that represents one of the gestures. The gesture is the Buddha calling Earth Goddess as a witness. Why? Because he was about to be enlightened. There were a lot of obstacles. And so Buddha called Earth Goddess witness. That's how it is. We call it 𝗘𝗵𝗶𝗽𝗀𝗀𝗃 mudra, artistic explanation of touching the earth or calling witness the Buddha's purity and his honesty, and that he's about to become enlightened. Yeah. And then next one, you will see the obstacles that we saw. Is this George Keith right here? And you can see here the Buddha's hands. You may want to observe the 2 palms. He is in meditation posture, but nevertheless his hands are not in a peaceful manner. They are kind of in a disturbed manner there. Yeah. So that means he's shocked. The challenges. You can see that if you look at the bottom, you can see the snake come out of this man's mouth. And if you look at the other person, you can see a weapon there. And these are we characterize as the Mara, the evil one coming to disturb the Buddha. And now here, it also could be a miraculous thing, but also we could understand it that these represents the 3 poisons that we mentioned, like, for example, greed, hatred, delusion, anger, and these negative things, and also even the defilements, kind of having, but these are maybe representative of that. Now, next one is interesting. These 3 mudras, I show it to you. Now look at the next one. Next one represents the purity. This is an image of enlightenment. Lotus universally in the Buddhist tradition, open lotus represents awakening, enlightenment, and purity. And now, this is the place where the Buddha, or the site where the Buddha attained enlightenment as a historical person. And we call it Buddha Gaya. And this is the Mahabodhi Society building. And this is where the Buddha attained enlightenment when he was 35 years old. Yeah. So that's the site. And this gentleman here, he's Anagarika Dharmapala, the Sri Lankan reformer, who kind of clean up the place and protected the place for Buddhists in the late 19th century. You can see the date here, 1891. Yeah, and this is in Bodh Gaya. And now this one, this image, I want you to look at the hand gesture here on the right hand side. And this mural is found in Saranath, and it represents Buddha awakening. And the Japanese artist, that I mentioned, represent it. But look at the hand, and the hand gesture is different. So maybe this is a different artistic creation. Of course, he wanted to show the earth touching mudra, but I think maybe this is a little bit Japanese twist or modern twist, kind of, because that's the Japanese way when you invite someone, kind of, you don't want to call someone. So kind of more like the way that it invite the earth goddess. And you can see a hand there popping up on the right-hand side. That's the earth goddess, yeah? So here you see the Buddha's face is very interesting. His halo is there. So you can see this iconographically. The Buddha is seen differently. Buddha's representation is given differently, but we have a common sense of conveying what the Buddha did and how he did it. And this is the month that Buddha attained enlightenment, and it's called month of May. We call it Vesak, and Vesak is celebrated in Malaysia, but as well as in other Buddhist countries. And this is a Vesak decoration at the heart of Colombo in 2017. Yeah, so this basically celebrate Buddha's enlightenment, but also his birth and parinirvana. And now this one, you may know it, you have seen it. This is the Buddhist flag. Buddha did not have a flag, or Buddha did not invent a flag. And most Buddhists went ahead in their work without a flag. The Buddhist flag, as you can see, it has 5 colors here. Blue, yellow, red, white, orange. These are 5 colors. And then there's a mixed color. They are called 6 colors. And they represent, and here also you can see the same color, but these colors represent the Buddha's halo. After he was awakened, after he became a Buddha, he had a halo around his body. And that halo is the one which became the foundation of Buddhist flag, which was invented in 1894 in Sri Lanka, when the British government recognized month of Vesak as a Buddha's birthday celebration, Vesak celebration. So a little bit history here and there related to Buddha, but these are important things in our situation. Now, let's go into our topic, and we still have about 45 minutes. We still have it, I guess. 45 minutes we have it. That's enough. And now, key contributions, Buddha's key contribution. And Buddha's key contribution is represented in these first 2 words, Dharma in Sanskrit, Dhamma in Pali. And of course, this is not the Buddha's invention. It existed earlier there, but Buddha definitely made it very prominent, going beyond the caste duties, because earlier in the Brahmanic tradition and later Hindu tradition, Dharma represents your duty as a person belonging to a particular caste, and Buddhism rejected. For Buddha, the meaning of Dharma means truth. There are other meanings like law, the teaching, and things like that. But basically, Dharma, we can take it as truth. And why is truth? Because it has a universal applicability. Kind of what Buddha explained, as it is come from Dhammacakka. It can be seen in many cultures, even though they may be different, but there's a common denominator. And now, linguistically, it comes from the root dhru. You may want to remember this, dhru. So the origin of this word, Dharma, is dhru. What it means is, basically, it has a supporting role, hold it, bear it. That's what it means. That means it's the law, the governing rule, the foundational law, foundational truth. Something doesn't change. And if you want to know more about these things further, about Dharma and so on, there's an interesting book called Dharma, written by John Ross Carter, published in 1978. a lot of detail about what Dharma is, both taken into Buddhist interpretation, including Sri Lankan ones. And this book also has been translated into Sinhala as this one as Dhamma. Yeah. So this book originally published in 1978, and the English one, if you want to read more, you may want to read that one. Yeah, it's John Ross Carter Dhamma. Yeah. Okay. So now we had a brief idea of Dharma. We will move to how the Dharma came to us. Buddha may have preached the teaching in the 6th century or 5th century. How it came to us? They came through orally. First orally, people who heard the Buddha's word, they remembered them, they passed them down. And then around the 1st century BC in Sri Lanka, they were written down. And then it became books. The books look like this. These are usually palm leaves, and you write them on the leaves, and that's how that we have the Buddhist texts now. They are called Tripitaka, 3 baskets, the discourses, the discipline, and Abhidharma. And I'm not going to go into detail, but you know what I mean. So we are talking about Dharma, and I wanted to, earlier I told about the Buddha. Buddha as a historical person, Buddha also as a mythology, kind of person who has miraculous mythological part, and as a person who knew the Dharma and showed Dharma. Now, what is the link between Buddha and Dharma? What is the relationship between the Buddha and Dharma? And this is a quotation from the Buddha himself saying the link between the two. He who sees me sees the Dhamma. He who sees the Dhamma sees me. Very simple. So if you want to see the Buddha, you have to see the Dhamma. And if you see the Dhamma, then you see the Buddhas. That means, basically, the Buddha and Dhamma are identical. So the Buddha passed away at the age of 80, but his Dhamma is still with us. So the Buddha is not with us, but we can see the Buddha by learning Dhamma, by teaching Dhamma, by practicing Dhamma, by developing our thoughts with Dhamma. So here, Buddha basically sees seeing the Dhamma, practicing the Dhamma as a way of seeing the Buddha. Very important one. Keep this in mind. And this is the heart of Buddhism, the foundational ground of Buddhism. Buddha equal Dhamma, identical. Yeah? Okay. And now we go to story. This kind of little bit way to make sense things. I know most of you have been to India. I guess so. But people who I can see on the screen, can you raise your hands if you have been to India? If you have been to India, can you raise your hands? Okay, only one person. Very good. Only Miss Ishin. Okay, Cindy also seems to have gone. Okay, no. So only Mrs. Ishin has gone. It's very good news. And now, in that sense, my presentation so far is useful to you, because I have made a context for you to see Buddha in relation to India. And here we see Indian map, and you can see the English letters, but the letters they are on the below are the Sanskrit letters. They are written in Hindi, but Sanskrit letters. For example, Patna, it's kind of called Patna in Sanskrit. Yeah, here and say, kind of. You can see the other places too. Now, the most important one is you wanted to look at this balloon. This balloon is Saranath, and on the right hand side, Bodh Gaya. Now, why I say this? The distance between these two places quite something. Suppose that if you go by car today, transportation, the distance between Bodh Gaya to Saranath is about 296 kilometers. And by car, it will take 6 hours today. Suppose if you walk from Bodh Gaya to Saranath, the distance is shorter, it becomes 234 kilometers. Roughly, if we usually walk about 4 kilometers, or maybe 5-6 kilometers an hour. So usually it takes about 53 hours to go from Bodh Gaya to Saranath by foot. That means more than a day. More than a day continuous walking. So why I say this is the Buddha's commitment. Buddha had enlightenment of Bodh Gaya. Then he did not preach there. He could have preached someone there because you cannot assume that there was nobody. But Buddha went to Saranath to teach. Why? We have to ask the question, why? Why he traveled so long, so far to teach the Dhamma? Why he did not teach it? You have to ask the question. So that means it shows the Buddha's dedication. It also shows Buddha's commitment to the people who he knew, and also Buddha's ability to say that my teaching should go to the right person. Right person. If you share the Dhamma, it should go to the right person. So Buddha travels quite a long way to preach our text. Dhammacakka is, he himself has taken a lot of labor to preach us this teaching that we are having today. Yeah. So that's one of the point that I want you to keep in your head. Yeah. So now here, the first meeting of the Buddha, the Buddha had companions, 6 companions early, and those 6 companions has abandoned him. Earlier they were his friends. It happens to us also. Sometimes our friends leave us in isolation because they don't have any more trust with us. And here, the 5 friends, 5 companions, see the Buddha after a long time and what it was like to them. The first meeting of the Buddha. What would we like to meet the Buddha? Because they knew him, Siddhartha, as ascetic. Now they are going to meet Buddha as an enlightened person. Buddha, with his divine eye, sees that the group of 5 ascetics are living at Benares, in Saranath, at the deer park at Isipatana. Isipatana means like where the seers are available, the kind of people who do yoga available. Yeah. On approaching the group of 5, they remarked. Now they noted the Buddha is walking, probably very tired, far away, but they were stubborn. They were stubborn. They address each other. Friends, here comes the recluse Gotama, kind of their criticism. Gotama is the word for Buddha's family, Gotama. Recluse Gotama, who lives luxuriously. That was one of the reasons for him to abandon it, because they thought that Buddha relaxes way of life. Who gave up his striving, that means he gave up his training, reverted to luxury. Of course, sometimes some of you make criticism against monks like us in similar way. We should not pay homage. So this is the kind of thing, like if you meet some of your elderly person or respected person, paying respect is very important. Now they agree we should not pay homage to him or rise up to him, because usually the custom is you stand up your seat when a senior person comes. That's the Buddhist way. Yeah, we should homage to him or rise up to him or receive his alms bowl. Like, say, for example, if you see a visitor coming with the luggage, you will go forward and pick up the luggage to ease that person, receive his alms bowl or outer robe. But a seat may be prepared for him, but they agree to prepare a seat. Why? Because Siddhartha was a prince. He was a king. So a person like that need to be given a seat. Yeah. So he recognized them. If he likes, he may sit down. That's their plot before he comes. This is Majjhima Nikaya. Yeah. And then Buddha comes there, and Buddha selects the deer park in Saranath and preach. And this is the statue there even today. Of course, latest statue, but a replica of the original one. And where the Buddha is teaching. Now, if you look at the hands here, like this is called teaching mudra, kind of Buddha in the instruction mode. Buddha is advising, giving instruction. So you can see now you learn few mudras today, touching earth, inviting, and meditation, and here the teaching mudra. Yeah. So the teaching mudra is very prominent for Saranath, for the Dhammacakka, because of the explanation. So now Saranath today is a fabulous place, very important place, and as a place where Dhammacakka was preached, is central to Buddhist imagination. Of course, we can have this text in many translations. Pali Text Society have it, and also I recommended some of you to read Valpala Rahula's text, this one, and you can see the text that we are discussing here on page 94 in this book, and Ms. Asian had sent you the electronic text. And then here, the book I got it from Malaysia, this also has this text on page 1503 in this book. And that's called Sujata. It's an easy English translation if you want to read it. Yeah, these are some of the text. And now this one is very important. I don't know whether you have seen. And here also it's called Ashoka pillar. That means Ashoka in the 3rd century put it there. And you can see here it's damaged, but you can see the writing in the middle is written. It's a Brahmi writing. And that's Ashoka's proof that that's where the Buddha preached the Dhammacakka. So this is very interesting archaeological monument. If you go to India, you may want to visit this place. Yeah. So here we are not talking about imagined person, actual person, at least from the perspective of Ashoka. Buddha was an actual person, historical person. Yeah. And even today, of course, you can see more deer in Nara in Japan, but there are few deer still in India, and you can see them. When I went there, these deer were probably curious whether I am also coming to give a sermon to them. But you can see their eyes, they are looking at me. But I didn't preach, I took only a photograph. Yeah, the deers are there even today in Saranath. Yeah, and another monument, stupa, they are called Dhammarajika stupa. These are the Buddha's relics are enshrined there. The whole site. This is in Saranath, where the Buddha preached. And this is the temple that Anagarika Dharmapala produced, called Mulagandhikutu Vihara, and we saw some of the paintings found inside that. Even some of the paintings from the Japanese painter come from there. Yeah. And now one of his paintings inside the shrine room, and there you can see how people were sad the Buddha's death, and you can see you may want to read the emotions in their faces, how desperate, how tragically stricken by the Buddha's death. And it's the scene of the Buddha's death there in Kusinara. This is the Kusinara, where Buddha passed away, actual statue. You can find it. This is the group that I went with on the background. This is a photo I took there. So the Buddha is lying down after dying. Kind of that's interesting thing for you to look at it. Now, Buddha's charisma. Buddha's charisma, I'm checking time. I think we still have 10 minutes or so. I think we can go. So Buddha's charisma, the account shows that the group of 5 could not help but display their reverence to the Buddha. But even though they agreed not to respect him, but they could not ignore him because he was Tathagata. Tathagata means one who has gone to the truth or come to the truth. So thus gone or thus come one. And they start addressing him, Honorable Lord, Blessed One. And for them, Buddha preached Dhammacakkappavattana. And now this is the place in Saranath believed to be the site where Buddha gave the first sermon. It's preaching seat, it's you can see it there, still excavated. I don't know whether it exists at that time, but definitely it's considered as where the Buddha gave the first sermon. And now this one, this kind of artistically presents the first sermon, how it came to be. You can see the 5 monks there, the deer there, Buddha is chanting, and it's a kind of more artistic way. And this is the kind of the CD of the Dhammacakka, and I'm going to chant it for a few minutes for you. And that the listening is very important. Listening to sacred sound is important. Look at what this girl is doing. When this Japanese meditation bell is ringing, she is listening to the sound. Listening to Dhamma, the sound is considered as meritorious. It's purify your heart. And now I'm going to go away and show you another screen. Let's see, share screen. I'm going to go to this one and play. I see. Okay, I think, yeah, this one. I hopefully you can hear. So that's actually first three lines, kind of first three lines of the Dhammacakkappavattana. And a child is crying somewhere. Somebody's microphone is on. Maybe you can mind that. So in the in this Dhammacakka, so we heard only the first three lines. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. So only first three lines, and there basically says, "Thus have I heard." On one occasion, the Blessed One was living in the deer park at Isipatana near Benares. Then the Blessed One addressed the group of 5 monks, saying, "O monks, these are two extremes. They ought not to be practiced by one who has gone forth from the household life. What are these two?" So basically, this instructing the 5 disciples, somebody who become a monastic renouncer, he gives away two extremes, and that's what it says. And then he goes in to set out the teaching. Now, before I go into it, I want to introduce his teaching, kind of, because today we don't have time to go through all of that. But what emerged are 3 ideas, like Adi Kalyanam, Majje Kalyanam, Paryosana Kalyanam. Because what we heard is Pali, but here Adi Kalyanam means the Buddha's teaching should be pleasant or beautiful in the beginning. Majje Kalyanam means Buddha's sermons or preaching should be beautiful in the middle. And third, Paryosana Kalyana means Buddha's teaching should be beautiful at the end. So here what you see is, this first part we saw it, Buddha addressing his disciples, 5 monks. A person should avoid these two extremes. Yeah, that's the first part. Of course, then the middle part and the last part, we are going to do it quickly. Now, at the beginning, it start with 𝗘𝗵𝗶𝗽𝗀𝗇. And this is the Sutta means heard. Me means by myself, heard by myself. 𝗘𝗵, thus. Whose word is that? Definitely it's not the Buddha's word. And this is the word somebody who heard Buddha speaking. Because Ananda himself, Ananda was the Buddha's attendant, Venerable Ananda. He was not there at that time, but he may have heard from somebody this account of it. So this is kind of the usually the traditional way how Buddhist discourses started. They say that I heard Buddha says this. That's the way it comes. 𝗘𝗵𝗶𝗽𝗀𝗇. That's how it starts. So there, the important part is the key doctrine is Four Noble Truths. This is a very important one. Four Noble Truth it's very important, and the center of Buddhist doctrine. And here, what you could see is in this format, you can see the Four Noble Truths. And now earlier I mentioned the Buddhism has some universal application. Dharma is universal in this sense. Like, for example, in the first one says, Sabbe Sankhara Dukkha. It basically says dukkha is basically Buddhist recognition that there is something called pain. There's something called illness. There's something called suffering. There's something called unsatisfied. And from Buddhist point of view, dukkha is everywhere. Now, Buddhist analysis is that if things are conditioned, that means joined together, by nature, they are going to turn into dukkha. So that's the Buddha's first truth. First truth is that all conditioned things, all impermanent things are subject to suffering. And now here, what is noticed is that even this one, Buddha may not have invented completely, because it was a medical formula used by the physicians. Usually a doctor will identify illness, like my sneezing, for example, and then diagnose and say what's happening. Did you sleep last night or the day before, or did you catch virus or something like that, and then say, cure, take some vitamin C, or have a hot bath or something like that. Yeah, and then you kind of recommend a remedy, and then the patient has to take that medicine. Yeah, so these four: illness, diagnose, cure, and remedy. This is found in many things, in the medicine, in other scientific problem, other work, and all life. And that's what Buddha taught. Buddha taught that there's something called suffering. It has an origin, and also it's possible to remove that, which is called cessation. And there is a path: the pain, origin, cessation, and the path. And that's what Buddha preached us as noble eightfold path. And you can see these things, like old age, illness, death, sickness, and all of these things can be suffering, and childbirth also. Childbirth or death, all of that could be. And you can see that this is graphically represented in the London Temple. And it is a statue from Sri Lanka. You can see the Buddha's halo, like in the Buddhist flag here. And Buddha is, of course, in a meditative posture. And now Buddha asked us to practice these Four Noble Truths in three ways. You have to understand them as truth, then, which is called Satya Jnana, and then second one is Kicca Jnana, or that you have to think that I have to be perform this, I have to do this, and that's called Kicca Jnana. And the third one is I have done it, completed. So when you add these three forms to the Four Noble Truths, it becomes 12-fold. And Buddha says that when you sow like that, Buddha attained enlightenment. And as long as he didn't say it, he said that he was not enlightened. And then for the last truth, the Magga, he gave this eightfold path, which has wisdom, concentration, and morality. Now here you could see the two sides, which include wisdom, right vision, right thought. Now, if you think about it, if you cannot see straight, there's no hope. That's obvious. And then if you don't imagine it rightly, your actions and your speech become hopeless. So you can see that those things you are seeing and you're thinking are very important, and that's the important part of the panya or wisdom side. Yeah. And then the morality, here you see the Sila divided into three, right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And this is what we do with our words and the body. And so training our speech is important here, and also training our body is important. Discipline our body is important. So those are the three things: speech, action, and livelihood. And then even little children in Buddhist societies, when they visit temple, they try to do something meaningful. And here, in a small way, two children practice right livelihood, sweeping the compound in the temple grounds. So Eightfold Path, the third one, is the concentration. Now, this is the meditative part, where the Buddha, Buddha is one of the person who clearly contribute to the world, highlighting the importance of mind, and a meditation part is there, mindfulness and concentration. Now, middle path, what we do is, we already says that the Buddha say that there are two extremes. One is too much luxurious life. The other one is too much austere life. So that means too much luxurious life means too much happiness, too much seeking only happiness. And the too much austere life is always making suffering for oneself, lying, doing bad things, and so on, making suffering. So the Buddha says that we want to avoid both, but we want to have a more comfortable, middle grounded life, and where Eightfold Path can sit well in your life. So there is a kind of philosophical analysis and right livelihood here. And now don't have time to go into detail. There are 4 people, noble person recognized, like extreme enterer, and once returner, and non-returner, and arahant. Theravada tradition says that once you get rid of your defilements, you can become an arahant. Now, what is missing? Because if I do this, then my talk is complete. So briefly, I'm talking about. Now, these are 3 characteristics, the central pillars of Buddhism. Now, what you get in the explicitly in the Dhammacakka is only the B, dukkha. You have the notion of suffering, but there's no mention of anicca and anatta. So these are 2 points missing. It's a unique teaching, empirical things, but anicca is not explicitly mentioned. Of course, it's implied because of the change, you have suffering. And if you are changing, there's no self. They're implied, but they are not articulated in words. You understand what I'm saying? That's what's missing there. Yeah. So there are a little bit more information about this relaxation, and all conditions are impermanent, or inconditioned things are unsatisfactory, and if things are changing, there's no self. And so limitations I mentioned about it, the kind of not having anicca and anatta, and then dependent origination, that things are causally connected, that's also not there. And also kamma, the idea that your work has impact, that's also not there. Rebirth is also. These are a few ideas. There may be many more ideas you can identify that they are not in the Dhammacakka, but fundamentally the 4 Noble Truths and Eightfold Path is there, but the remaining things probably came after the first sermon. Yeah, may not be the heart of it. So now, let's see. Yeah. So these are quite important one, and maybe I will use this one and then conclude it, because this is something familiar. Dependent origination says that things are connected. One thing arises depending on another, and the third thing arises relating to the second thing, and then fourth thing arises relating to the third thing, like this. Like, for example, our suffering is also like that. We do something and then somebody react, and we react, and like that, and then become a miserable vicious circle of suffering. Yeah, things like that. So here that formula is. And now most important thing is that why this Buddhist philosophy is important. Buddhism recognizes cause and effect, and there's no independent existence. And if we are thinking, that we are not connected and separated, we are not enlightened. And look, you can see in today's world, the climate impact, like, heavy sun in Singapore and Malaysia, emerging wars in Ukraine and Russia and Israel and Palestine, coronavirus and energy problem, electricity bills going up, food going up. All of these are basically connected things, and Buddhism seems to have understood and explained them, that things are connected. Kind of this philosophical vision in Buddhism is very important. So even though I did not go into more detail, I plan to do things. It looks like teaching on Dhammacakkappavattana, I may need about 1 week, I think, rather than 1 hour. So we will leave it for the next occasion for that. Then before ending, I wanted to do a little bit blessing, and then we finish it off. Let's see. Yeah. So basically, this is what I plan to conclude. So my talk, or Dhamma talk, wanted to kind of say about Buddha's first sermon. I actually focus more on the background, his journey, meeting the disciples, and his central message. Yeah. And then I also included that, certain things not included in the first sermon, I mentioned them. And then what we can take today from this is that the middle path, being in the middle, is very important for us. And that's what the Buddha taught us, and that's what we take with us. So now let's do a little bit brief meditation. I will chant, and then we finish it off as this slide says. Yeah. May I be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to me. May no difficulties come to me. May no problems come to me. May I always meet success. May I also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome inevitable difficulties, problems, and failures in life. May all living beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May all here and elsewhere be protected by the triple gem. Sabbitiyo vivajjantu sabbaruko vinasatu mati bhavattvantarayu sukhi digayuko bhava. Bhavatu sabba mangalam rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sutti bhavantu te. May all rejoice in the merit accrued here today. Akasatta ca bhummatta devanaga mahittika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu loka sasanam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much for all of you for your attention. May the good thoughts, good will, and good ideas may empower us to overcome all difficulties. May all of you have peace and happiness and healthy life. Thank you very much. Sadhu.
Thank you, Bhatti.
Yeah. It's over. Finish, yeah?
Yeah. We would like to express.
Do you want to have questions or not?
Yeah.
If people have questions, we should have it.
Is there any question for today?
There's one hand there.
Excuse me, Reverend.
Yeah. Please.
Yes, Reverend. First of all, I really appreciate this program. Actually, it is very essential, very important for us as a nun. I got so many knowledge from your session. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, for teaching us. It is very essential for our life. And I want to say, now I'm hospital by join this program very happily. So I have to make a small request. Could you mind please share your valuable presentation for us, Reverend? Actually, this presentation is very important for us.
Yeah. Where are you speaking from?
I'm speaking from Sri Lanka.
Which place in Sri Lanka?
I'm Candy.
Oh, Candy. Very nice. Very nice. How did you
I'm
know about
following
this?
because I saw this program in from the FB, Facebook. I'm
Oh, wonderful.
following. Yeah, I'm
Wonderful.
following Buddhist Studies degree in Sibha campus.
Wonderful. I think Miss Ethan will record this and it will
Sure.
go on the YouTube. Any other question? No? How about Cindy? No,
No question. No question. Thank you.
no question? Huh?
Bante, Venerable, thank you for taking time to prepare
Yeah.
this. And I think we actually need more time, as you
I
say,
mean, maybe
for
we'll do the second. Yeah.
time to cover
Yeah.
the Sutta explanation. But we are very grateful to Bante for the preparation, spending time,
Yeah.
to get us sharing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. And we will put it on the YouTube. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for all of you for your participation. And we hope to see you again. Yeah. Okay. We will leave it. I will leave it now.
Yeah,
Miss? Yeah. Okay.
secure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bante.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you.